Begin by cutting each end of the hose square using the method you prefer to expose the helical wires. The helical wires will be used to ground the assembly for electrical continuity. Clean each end of the hose where it contacts the fitting. Clean surfaces help assure fitting retention and a leak-free assembly. More thorough cleaning may be necessary depending upon customer requirements and the application of the assembly. Bend approximately 1/2 inch of each of the two helical wires inside the hose so they will contact the fitting when it is inserted. A small incision behind each helical wire helps the wires to lay against the inner diameter of the hose, making it easier to insert the fitting and does not affect the integrity of the assembly. Repeat the cleaning and grounding steps for the other end of the hose. Using an outside diameter tape measure, sometimes referred to as a pie tape, measure close to the end of the hose the outside diameter to the nearest 1/64 inch. The measurement for this end is 3 39/64. Mark this measurement on the end of the hose. Use this measurement to select the proper ferrule from the manufacturer's Crimped specification chart. This chart shows a 3 39/64 outside diameter hose uses an FRSS 300-348 ferrule crimped to a diameter of 3.66 inches. Slide the ferrule over the end of the hose and mark the hose at the bottom end of the ferrule. This mark will be a visual reference to determine if the fitting is fully inserted into the hose. Repeat the measuring and marking steps for the other end of the hose as outside diameters can vary. The measurement for this end is 3 40/64. The chart shows a 3 40/64 outside diameter hose also uses an FRSS 300-348 ferrule, but it is crimped to a diameter of 3.67 inches. Slide the ferrule over the hose end. Insert the fitting squarely and completely into the hose using a small amount of lubrication if necessary. The insertion reference mark should be at the bottom of the ferrule when the fitting is fully inserted. Use a nipple pusher if necessary to completely insert the fitting. Avoid using a hammer or any other object to attempt to drive the fitting into the hose, as this can damage the hose and the fitting. Select the crimp dies for your machine that will allow you to crimp the ferrule to the correct diameter on the crimp chart and insert them into your machine. This end has an outside diameter of 3 39/64, which the chart specifies a crimp diameter of 3.66 inches. Set your machine to crimp to the diameter that corresponds to the outside diameter of the hose end you are working with. Insert the hose end into the machine and jog the dies down until they just contact the ferrule. Align the ferrule so that it interlocks with the groove in the fitting and crimp the ferrule. Retract the dies and measure the crimp diameter. Make sure to measure near the center of the crimp where the dies contacted the ferrule and not on top of one of the ridges created between the dies. This ferrule is under-crimped and requires further crimping. Adjust the machine to increase the crimp and recrimp the ferrule. Retract the dies and remeasure. If the crimp is within the manufacturer's tolerance, remove the hose from the machine. Inspect the insertion mark on this end of the hose. It should be at or very near the end of the ferrule. Repeat the crimp and crimp diameter measurement steps for the other end of the hose. This end has an outside diameter of 3 40/64, which the chart specifies a crimp diameter of 3.67 inches. Inspect the insertion mark on this end of the hose. Finally, check the assembly for electrical continuity.